Okay, I'm Ellie Smil, and I met Bunny, I think, I know in the 1970s, and I think I met her probably over Joanne Evans Gardner's house, who was sort of the guru of the feminist movement in Pittsburgh, and very active nationally, because she was on the board of NOW, but also was the founder of KNOW, which was a printing press for the feminist movement, and because we didn't have any books or anything at that time and articles, and also one of the founders of the political caucuses within the various professions. She thought the world of Bunny, and she was right, because she told us, those of us who were younger, the importance of Title IX. And the odd thing is that most of my knowledge from Bunny is the work on Title IX. And I started as an organizer in Pennsylvania. I ended up being the Pennsylvania coordinator in a very short time because, you know, if you volunteered a lot, they just gave you different titles. And we testified, a lot of the state coordinators are now against the regs on Title IX because they weren't strong enough. And Bunny was wanting them stronger too. And one of the things they left out was curriculum. And we were trying to get curriculum in. I can remember that. But her reach was not only through speaking and through professional organizations, but knowing the principal feminist troublemakers around the country, so that we would all act together in a stronger way to protect Title IX, which I have become to believe is one of the accomplishments of the women's movement of this era. Without it, I don't know where we would be. It would not be very pretty picture. In Pittsburgh, we were suing the University of Pittsburgh, and but now chapters were suing, and Wild was suing. Wild was based in Ohio, so it was pretty close to us. But all told, God knows how many schools we were suing, because everybody was sort of taking on an institution. And Title IX was very important in all of this. And in fact, how I knew her after the 70s was we kept working on Title IX every inch of the way. It's been now 48 years for me of working to help save Title IX. You're always trying to save it, let alone make it stronger. But we just won a lawsuit on Title IX. By the way, the feminist majority did this last 2 weeks on sexual harassment on Title IX. So in all that, Molly Yard, who was also from Pittsburgh, and loved Bunny Sandler, and she spent the last years of her life trying to defend Title IX in sports and to move it on, and she constantly worked with Bunny in that. Sue Klein, I've known for so long, and every time Sue, who is the defender in the world, in the United States, of Title IX coordinators, she conspired continuously with Bunny to make sure that institutions of education had Title IX coordinators and were enforcing the law. I was thinking as everybody was talking how one person's life intersects with all the rest of us, but it has been this informal network of feminists that is, I think, you know, we all have different organizations, we all have different specialties, but it's that intersection that has made it possible for us to move ahead, because none of our groups were really funded enough. And Bunny made sure this educational component, which was ever so important, stayed alive and up to date, and was doing all that it could do to advance young women's educational opportunities. So I feel that if I'm glad you're taping this, because if the next generation is to learn, it is the informal networks and people who specialize in keeping a ball moving forward. And she did that in such, and I had to laugh because I hate to fly too. And I don't use M&Ms. I use Bloody Marys, but but anyway, all of us have traveled, and Bunny certainly traveled on the circuit to spread the word, to inspire other, people to understand the Empower of Title IX, to make sure it was enforced, to make sure that it was a living organism that kept on adopting new strategies as there were new challenges. It's not safe today, but I believe one of the reasons it has had such an impact is Bunny Sandler was there to protect it all these years.
Right.
Pretty brief, because like Amanda, my connection with Bunny has some gaps in it, shall we say. I'm Francilia Gleaves, and after I left the forefront of the battle and raised children, I took on my husband's name, thinking of my kids going to school. I didn't want them to be ostracized at the time. But it's only in the past several years that I realized how tremendous that opportunity was for me to work for Bunny. In early 1971 is when she joined the staff of the then Association of American Colleges as director of their newly funded project on the status and education of women. I was already working there as a secretary to one of the other academics there. I was very interested in the project. At the time, women's superiority, not women's rights, was a passion of mine. And I read all those books and Ashley Montague and all those people. Bunny was cautioned by an association personnel guy not to hire me because, as her secretary, because I was a troublemaker. So I think I had been grousing about the title that we had, and in comparison, with the job that we did, secretary as opposed to administrative assistant. And of course, Bunny hired me. Shortly after, Margaret Duncan came on board, and then began this wonderful enterprise of working with people on college campuses, opening their eyes and their minds to what's really going on, and helping them to construct positive, legal responses to their responsibility and to the situation on campuses. You all know all of that. I'm not going to even begin to try to go back and walk you through that. You've heard it. You know it very well, more than me, because you're living it every day. I've had a long hiatus. The best thing for me about those years, and it was 48, but it's a long time, was the experience of witnessing Bunny, the achievements of a woman who was relentless, savvy, brave, and intelligent. The word fearless kept coming up into my head as I thought about Bunny.
Yeah.
Persistent.
Undaunted. It was such a privilege to work for her. She was generous with her mentoring and giving personal support. She saw that her staff had titles and salaries that reflected their responsibilities and their performances. Before I joined her on her staff, I had worked for two really nice, really wonderful white male bosses. And I know I led a charmed life from what I'm hearing now. But I never addressed them at all except for Mr. or Doctor. I don't ever remember addressing Bunny in the office or outside the office, really, as Dr. Sandler. Now that's a small thing, maybe, especially now. Maybe we're a much more casual society, but at the time, that's a very telling kind of thing when you work with someone and they want you to be on their level with them. They see you as the full person, not as a minion. And it just was a sign of her abiding sisterhood. She felt for everyone. A few years ago, after my long gap of child rearing, Margaret connected Dunkel connected me and Bunny and another staffer came back us for a mini reunion. And I was thrilled to be reunited. And I remember how saying to her in retrospect how her work on Title IX was like a stone thrown into a stream, creating ripples that flow on into the larger body of water. And that larger body, the river, the ocean, is changed forever. And then you do understand that the ripples have to keep coming because the work never ends. And to mix metaphors, the battle goes on. It's a righteous war, but I am so grateful that I had the opportunity to serve my stint with her. She is a truly stellar leader, a 4-star general of no comparison. And I thank God that he put me in her path.
What a joy that we're together. I'm Edie Fraser, and I knew Bunny very early, it seems, because there were 3 distinct things she got me to do. She got us all to do things, and we got others to do things. But one, in light of gender equity, was to really put together with Wheel and Few the data of women across the federal government. Now, it had never been done before. So we spent the weekend, Bunny and I and a few others, on the floor of my apartment, putting together every department and agency and looking at the data of women, which now is mandatory. But the fact is, it was the first time it was ever done. And Bunny made it happen because she pulled us all together and said, we can't move forward unless we know the base of gender equity of where we're going. My second major experience, when we all worked with Title IX, and I had done the Peace Corps 5 years and the poverty program and ended up at the old HEW. But it was, I had established a communications firm, and Bunny said, and you're getting involved in the communications. We all need each other to pass Title IX and to work on the action. And yes, we did. And the third experience goes back to ACE and college presidents, because I think she was the first to say, we're going to put together a conference, the first time that women college presidents have ever come together, and help me put that together, because we're going to start counting the voices of women college presidents. So there's so many other stories. As today, we say thank you that we've got to push women at the top in terms of women and politics and policy, and all we do to make that action that really 44,000 women from school boards to et cetera after Trump was elected decided, and then want that equity as we've ever gone about it. I think that Bunny is in our hearts every day. If we just say the name Bunny and what that means for equity, it's just extraordinary as we all stand up to push. We're putting together a whole effort on business women's groups with Paradigm for Parity and Equity, and getting all the groups to stand up for parity and equality, and the Me Too movement is helping with Bunny in our hearts and minds to know that we're working on that together. So very quickly, as we've been thinking, and I was thinking of the adjectives, as you do, that really connote Bunny in our consciences, and one of them is those connections that she made us all put together to actions, to drive a commitment, and that included data and change, to really the courage of the convictions, the pure courage to stand up. The communications, we couldn't do it unless we all put communications with it. To build the coalition and build that strongly together, and that constant persistence with it, the catalyst for change that she was, the compassion that she brought, along with a smile, and the word cause, of the cause that we all had to work through. And today, I think we'd add complaints, because I think as everybody's talked, she put forward complaints so that we could solve them and that we could really make a difference. And in a sense of building a really strong community. So there's so many more things that we all say, but I say that we all feel a sense of gratitude for her friendships and for her push along the way. And to know that in these troubling times, we're going to take those adjectives and just make such a difference and say thank you, Bunny.
Hi, I'm Connie Portavia, and I, up until July, was with the American Federation of Teachers for 30 years doing their women's rights work. And it's through that connection with the American Federation of Teachers that I knew Buddy. I'm probably the latest one to come and know Buddy, because it was only in the 90s that my boss, Barbara Bev Blake, said, you need to meet this woman, Bunny Sandler. She is just phenomenal, and she's done so much for Title IX. And I thought, Title IX, what is Title IX? I'll find out what Title IX is. It was a learning experience every day. So we recognized Dr. Sandler in 2004. We made her the recipient of what we call our Women's Rights Award at the AFT. We recognized her not only for her scholarship at the Women's Research and Education Institute, but of course much more importantly for her pivotal role in developing and passing Title IX and other legislation that prohibited discrimination against women and girls in education. While she was at the Association of American Colleges and Universities, she directed the project on the status and education of women, where she published reports on campus sexual harassment, gang rape, campus peer harassment, and the unwelcoming climate for women, including the first report on how men and women were treated very differently in the classrooms. And at that time, in those days, to mention those words, even to talk about what happened, that was really breaking barriers, and she was a barrier breaker. She received our award because, of course, her proven leadership to women workers in the issues that affect them most intimately. She was most aptly deserving of the title, Godmother of Title IX, and she did so much to define, improve, and hold high gender equity in education, and we are forever grateful for what she did to define, improve, and hold high that gender equity in education. When I think of Bunny Sandler, I think of electricity. There was a frisson of electricity, and it still goes through this room just at the mention of her name. And she was the most genuinely happy soul I ever met. She always had a smile on her face. I can remember when she got up to receive our award, I had to find a box for her to stand on because she was so short. She wouldn't get over the top of the podium, bless her soul. But she was so gracious and so kind. And those are the kinds of memories that carry you through and make that person continue to live on.
Thank you.
My name is Jan Erickson. I'm Government Relations Director for the National Organization for Women. I would like to convey a regret from our President, Tony Van Pelt, who has a conflict today, but hopefully she can come to a future meeting and share a few thoughts. In regards to, and I'll make this very quickly because I know time is of the essence here, that manner of Bunny of always smiling is so important for feminists because the work we do is so hard and we encounter so much negativism. It is delightful to have somebody among us who is always smiling and conveys a feeling of love and support, and that was Bunny. I'll try to get through my notes very quickly. I have just a few short comments. Some of you may know several years during the Nixon and Ford administrations, regulations were passed implementing Title IX. They dragged on for a number of years, and Bunny Sandler did play an important role in drafting key parts of those regulations, so we have her to thank for that. And hopefully she moved the process along because there was then and is now a suspicion that those administrations really were foot dragging. The Feminist Chronicles, 1953 to 1993, which is available, by the way, for download from the Feminist Majority Foundation's website, chronicles this history, and they have a timeline of the birth and the growth of the second wave of the modern feminist movement. There is a focus in Feminist Chronicles of the advocacy of the National Organization for Women, and information it notes that in 1975 there was a meeting at the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare, as it was then called, with Secretary Caspar Weinberger, who met with 13 national women's organizations, including now Legal Defense and Education Fund's Peer Project, which looked at issues concerning equality in education. Weinberger suggested that he preferred to leave the final Title IX implementation, the regulation decisions, to the courts, and implied that once these regulations were issued, HEW would avoid making policy decisions in order not to prejudge these court cases. Well, in February, these 13 women's organizations sent the Secretary a letter charging his department with clear abdication of HEW's legal responsibility to enforce Title IX, maintaining that the statute directed the executive departments providing federal education aid, not the courts, to enforce the law. So that was January of that year, 1975, 3 years after the passage of Title IX. Then that February, Title IX regulations barring sex discrimination in intercollegiate athletics and broadening opportunities for girls and women in education were released and were signed by Secretary Weinberger and sent to President Gerald Ford for a signature. The meeting with the 13 women's organizations, including now Legal Defense and Education Fund, perhaps made a difference and I'm personally thinking that, yes, it made a key difference in getting those regulations finally moving. If Bunny were here with us today, I'm sure that she would have many stories to tell about that process. And perhaps she has even written about those. I certainly haven't read everything that Bunny has written. She was just a prodigious author. Following that, now suggested that a coalition be formed in 1976, and that was the National Coalition of Women and Girls in Education. We're still meeting today, 43 years later, and unfortunately maybe carrying on some of the same battles. Title IX, as many of you know, is facing a serious challenge with the regulations that the Trump administration is proposing concerning sexual harassment. Comments, by the way, are due on the 30th of this month. They gave us 2 extra days from the original deadline of the 28th, proposing regulations which essentially remove responsibility from colleges, universities, and schools to respond to complaints of sexual harassment. What these regulations are proposing is that any incident which occurs off campus does not have to be addressed by school authorities. And we note that there is an option for schools to take on that responsibility, but I'm being more of a cynic, thinking that a lot of schools won't do that. 87% of college students live off campus, which was a statistic that really surprised me. And that means the vast majority of students may have little recourse if their school chooses not to implement Title IX, their understanding of Title IX. This part of Title IX, a civil rights law, was intended to counter the widespread harassment and even assault that women experienced, many women students, and which was often swept under the proverbial rug. If the incident was severe and the school failed to take action, or worse, protected the perpetrator, which, as we know, happened a lot, the woman just often dropped out of school. The proposed regulations, that is the Trump administration regulations, would return women and girls to those days when educational institutions failed to protect them and protect their educational future. I'm sure that Bunny Sandler was very saddened to see these regulations proposed. Maybe some of you here spoke with Bunny about this, and hopefully when We have a new administration. We will work like crazy to get all of these regulations, and maybe even better ones, restored. And we can hopefully begin on that work in 2021. So in the spirit of Bunny Sandler, I'm sure that we will all be working on getting this done, and Bunny will be smiling all along the way. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you sign in?